Holding a record three-point output of 402 made threes in the 2015 to 2016 NBA season and one of the highest made three-point shot percentages at around 43% makes Steph revolutionary when it comes to his unique shooting-focused playstyle. But is a statistic like this enough to define if Steph really is the chef? To answer this question, we will delve into Steph Curry's career by evaluating his performance across 5 key criteria: aptitude, toughness, headspace, longevity, and triumphs, scoring each on a scale from 0 to 10. Once we work through these, we can average out the scores to give Steph a total athlete score and place him on the Athletica scoreboard. Alright, let's jump ball. First up, aptitude. Steph Curry is primarily an offensive player, so he's mostly about scoring points and playmaking. So what better way to assess an offensive basketball player than by simply examining the average points per game? Steph's average sits at 24.74 points per game. So how does this compare to some other ballers? When looking at all-time statistics, Steph comes in at 18th of all time, so we can see he's definitely up there in the top range. However, let's look at this differently. What if we consider only three-point goals? This is crucial because a successful three-point field goal is worth more and has become critical in modern basketball strategy, as they stretch the defenses and can dramatically increase the team's scoring efficiency and offensive versatility. When comparing to other players, we can see that Steph actually sits at the number 1 of all-time position, with a three-pointers made per game number of around 4, which is also significantly ahead of the next best. This just goes to show Steph's incredible perimeter-oriented shooting capability. What is interesting though is if we look at effective field goal percentage, which gives extra weight to three-pointers, Steph Curry sits at 58.2%, which is outstanding for a guard, but still sits below the top 10 cutoff and places him around 15th of all time. Now, basketball at the end of the day is a team sport, so we need to consider how Steph contributes to the team as a whole. Assist percentage is widely regarded as the best single statistic for gauging how well a player works in a team by measuring the share of teammates' field goals that a player directly creates. Steph Curry has an average career assist percentage of 30.8%, which peaked in a single season to about 40%. This is significantly higher than the average 26% for point guards and just goes to show his elite playmaking ability. Alright, so let's get a score for aptitude. Remember, there are heaps of other incredible stats and data crunch to get these scores, but I've saved you from the deep dive by sticking to the highlights. What's clear from all this data is that Steph Curry can shoot, and he can set up his team for success, highlighting his awareness of the court. So for aptitude, we are starting off strong and giving Curry a 8.5. Okay, so toughness. There are a few metrics here that we can use to measure Steph Curry's physical capability. For example, for endurance, we can see that his average game distance covered falls approximately within the 95th percentile among all NBA players. But we can break this down further. The fact that Curry covers so much ground is likely due to him being given a lot of court time. So how consistently is he performing in the minutes that he plays? There's no widely published minute consistency metric. However, by examining the variation of minutes played from game to game, we can derive a rough idea of how stable a player's workload is. So by comparing a player's average minutes played in individual games, we can determine when a coach takes a player off or not. In short, making an assumption that if a coach takes a player off field earlier than the average, they are not performing as well. But if they stay on above their average, they are performing well. Here's what we found. The smaller the percentage, the less likely the player is to be taken off court. Steph's number just goes to show how consistent he is, suggesting that the coaching staff trust him on court for most of the time. So anyways, back to some more measurable data. We can quantify other elements of Curry's physical capability. For example, his crossover speed, peak burst speed, full court drive speed, and a few other elements. We then compiled this dataset to develop a physical capability profile for Curry, and we came up with a composite average score to compare him against other players. This is what we get. Interestingly, Curry actually only falls within the 75th percentile here. Overall, there aren't many NBA players that match Curry's combination of rapid acceleration and sustained sprint speed, given his perimeter-oriented role. So in his areas of strength, he absolutely excels. But when looking at the whole picture, we wouldn't classify him as one of the overall toughest players. So for toughness, it's a 7. Time to look into headspace. The point guard on a basketball team is often considered the heartbeat of the team, serving as both its on-court strategist and emotional leader. This makes it a challenging position from a mental focus perspective. Steph Curry needs to orchestrate the offense, set the pace of the game, and make split-second decisions that can alter the course of a contest, all during high-intensity games. One way to classify him here is to look at assist-to-turnover ratio, where a high assist-to-turnover ratio shows a player's ability to read the game, make smart decisions quickly, and manage pressure situations effectively. Steph Curry sits at 2.05, which in practical terms means for every turnover Curry commits, he dishes out just over 2 assists. Now, this might seem quite modest, especially compared to the others on this list, but it's important to note that Curry is unique here in that he also shoulders a heavy scoring load on top of his playmaking responsibilities. Another metric that can really help here is the clutch plus-minus value. This metric isolates how a player impacts the score during high-stakes moments, typically defined as the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime, when the game is within about 5 points, which acts as an excellent insight into a player's headspace under pressure, which is usually when headspace matters the most. Just note that this is a difficult metric to accurately work out and is relatively new, with the value of plus 0.5 to plus 1.5 being regarded as quite exceptional. So what we've found is that on average, Curry is generally hovering at around plus 0.8 points per 100 possessions. In other words, over the course of his career, when the game is on the line, his presence on the floor is typically associated with his team outscoring their opponents by roughly 0.8 points per 100 possessions in those final moments. Also, this number actually makes Curry one of the best in the league when it comes to clutch situations. Keep in mind that this is a zero-sum statistic, meaning that for every point a player adds for his team in clutch moments, another player's on-court performance offset. So Curry is clearly out there taking away from others. Look, Curry clearly has his head in the game, so much so that he is iconically known for how well he can read games. That's why he earns a 9 in the Headspace department. Next up, longevity. Curry has been playing in the NBA since 2009. He's iconically known for having some particularly incredible seasons. For example, the 2015 to 2016 season where he smashed records such as making over 400 three-pointers and guiding the Golden State Warriors to a record-breaking 73 wins to 9 losses regular season, eclipsing the previous best in NBA history. But the question is, has he been able to keep up an elite level of performance across his whole career so far? To determine this, let's take a look at usage rates. This is really just asking, when you're on the floor, how much is the team able to attempt or score with your help? This makes usage rate one of the most valuable tools for understanding a player's role on the team. For example, players who see significant play time, particularly offensive roles, often have usage rates of around 23%. These are Curry's usage rates over the years. There are a few key things here. Firstly, he's pretty much always above the average. Secondly, he got better over the years, a lot better, and even currently he's still either improving further or staying pretty consistent. Thirdly, that usage rate in the 2020 to 21 season is actually one of the highest usage rates ever. Let's take a more general look at his overall capabilities by looking at what's called his player efficiency rating over time. This is a number that sums up a player's overall contributions on a per minute basis. In the league, a PER of 15 is considered average. These numbers not only showcase Curry's growth and sustained excellence over his career, but also offer insight into how his overall efficiency has evolved. It's clear that Steph Curry can reliably make plays consistently every time he plays and hasn't shown much signs of slowing down, despite having played for so long, which for such a long career is incredibly impressive. He scores a 9 here. Alright, let's go to the final category, triumphs. Curry has achieved a lot over his career. This includes 4 NBA titles, 2-time Most Valuable Player, with the 2016 MVP award being particularly historic because he remains the only player in league history to be elected unanimously, and also 1 Olympic gold medal. Now, this is not the complete list, of course, but even beyond this, Curry has generally changed the way basketball is played by challenging and influencing how team offenses should be structured, and also introducing much more focus on shooting range and precision. Overall here, it's a solid 8. So is it Chef Curry or KitchenAid Curry? When it comes to shooting and playmaking, it's definitely Master Chef Curry. And when it comes to everything else, it's Chef Curry. He is clearly one of the best we have ever seen in the elements where he shines, but in other areas, he is sort of skirting around the mid to the top range of other NBA players. Overall, this gives Steph Curry an athlete score of 8.3, putting him here on the Athletica scoreboard. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to shoot at that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell notification so we can keep scoring athletes. Thanks for watching, team. Catch you at the next one.